Hey guys, it's Sid with svtperformance.com, and like we promised you earlier in the week, we have this brand new 2020 GT500 that VMP Performance has been playing around with. It has their Joker's ported blower on it and some mild tuning, but not much else. But like we promised you earlier, I know you guys saw the ridiculous gains we were making just by removing this airbox lid on the dyno. You know, we're getting like 50, 60 horsepower out of this thing. It was crazy with just removing this little plastic lid. And of course, we were doing that on the dyno with the hood up. When we closed the hood, we were losing some power. So, what better way to test it than to bring it out to the drag strip and run it lid on, lid off, to see if there's actually any performance advantage or disadvantage running it one way or the other. I kind of have a theory. I think it's actually going to run better with the lid on, but we'll see. So we've made a few different runs throughout the day, and now it's come to the time to pull this airbox lid off. So we already obviously have it unbolted. You guys saw we made some fairly ridiculous gains with this thing removed on the dyno. So like we mentioned before, that was with the hood up. Close the hood, the gains sort of went away. So now we're going to try it at the track. And we're obviously not going to try it at the track with the hood up, so it'll be hood closed. But my theory is that having the lid off may actually hurt the performance on the track. And that's because if we put this lid back on here, it seals up pretty nicely. You'll see Ford put some foam in here, and the ring here, it sets in like a groove that forms a fairly decent seal around this thing. And the reason I think it's sealed up pretty well is because Ford spent a lot of time and money down here in the front of this car putting this nice little scoop in. And if you look in the back of this thing, you can actually see the filter. And this thing is fairly sizable. I mean, you can see it's taking up that whole corner of the grill. So basically what we have here is a ram air scoop built in from the factory. And I have a feeling to get the ram air effect into this filter, this box needs to be closed. Otherwise, the air coming in down here is just going to go all over the engine bay and not be used properly. With the lid on, I have a feeling that we're going to be forcing cool air into this box at speed, because you know this car's trapping close to 130 miles an hour. So that's a lot of air getting pushed into this air box. Only one way to find out: take the lid off, close the hood, let's go down the track, see what it does. So as you can see, the sun's setting. We're getting ready to make the run with the air box lid off. Really giving it every advantage possible with this setup, because it has cooled down probably 7 or 8 degrees, and a nice little breeze, not too bad. It was probably 82 earlier today. It's probably 74 or so now. Nice evening. So if this thing runs significantly faster, we'll know that the gains we were seeing on the dyno actually play out in real life. Runs the same speed or slower, probably just want to leave the airbox lid on for now. Start messing with the pulleys. You know, this thing, it does have a ported blower on it. We do have a ported blower from Joker's on it, plus 100 plus millimeter throttle body. But at the end of the day, it's just a 93 octane tune. Fairly mild tuning on this car, not very aggressive at all. And of course, there is no transmission tuning at this time for these. Can't even log what's going on in the transmission. So we found that raising the rev limiter and then manually shifting has been giving the best time. So that's the fastest time that it has ran all day. But how much of that was air temperature, you think?
You know, it's 60-footed slower, and from previous experience, that is hot air being sucked out of the engine bay on launch.
Yeah.
So I'd say that while the airbox lid shows great power gains on the dyno, it's not so great at the track.
Yeah, it's not a real world comparison, really. Well, not a real world mod you would want to do.
At least at this power level.
Yeah.
When we add power.
That's what I was thinking, you know, if we throw a pulley at it and start making 20 pounds of boost where that ported blower should really start shining, at that point, maybe that ram scoop in the front of the engine doesn't give it enough.
Won't really matter much anymore.
No, it's not giving it
it might be more of a restriction than a benefit.
But so far, it seems like it likes getting that fresh air from the outside in and not sucking hot underhood air in.
Ford did a good job with their factory cold air, so that's the challenge that's been thrown down. And the aftermarket's going to have to rise to meet it if they're going to upgrade that part.
We need to just find a filter and put on the thing and just see what it does with just a filter. I mean, maybe that paper filter is a little bit of a restriction. It could possibly pick up something there.
It could be, and I believe the GT350 filter will fit that airbox too.
Well, maybe that's something else we can try later on. One thing that is for certain, it's definitely not making 50 more horsepower. Not in the real world. So we'll have to kind of watch out what guys are saying that cold airs are making on the dyno, especially hood up dyno runs, because we've shown you can make a ridiculous number if you want to make a number. That's basically it. But in the real world, it's not translating to actual performance.
Yeah, definitely.
So now, just for interest of being thorough, we're going to put the airbox back on. We're just right after the run. I mean, this thing's still really hot. Put the airbox lid back on, and we're going to cool the car off, run it again in this slightly cooler air. I mean, it's maybe what, 8 degrees cooler than it was earlier?
Yeah, a little bit.
But this previous run with the lid off, it lost a little bit on the 60-foot time. It was no quicker. It was running basically the same time. It's been running 10/8.
ET, yeah.
And it picked up, what, maybe 1 mile an hour?
About half to 1 mile an hour.
Yeah. So, and that could be very easily attributed to it being a little bit later in the day and it being cooler.
Cooler, yeah.
So we're going to slap this lid back on and see what it does now in a little bit cooler air. So we've had about a 20-minute or so cool down since that last run with the airbox lid off. We bolted the airbox lid back on. Temperature's about the same as it was during that last run, and we're going to see what it does this time. The only thing that changed was found a parameter in the tune to allow you to use the launch control with traction control off. So we're going to try that out. That's the thing about these cars. Tuning is basically in its infancy. A lot of parameters aren't even defined in the tuning software yet, and we have no access at all to the transmission control module. So we're really just trying things out here. So that's one setting that we've changed between the two runs, just to see what it does. Other than that, spark, fuel, everything else is the same, other than that one setting change and putting the airbox lid back on. So last time around, the car ran a 1087 at 131 miles an hour with the airbox lid off. So with it back on, let's see what it does. And by the way, we did lose 60 foot time that last time with the airbox lid off, which is a classic sign of it getting hot. 1084 to 130.8. Next up, we head back to the dyno and install a prototype cold air intake from JLT Performance.